Michael Miller has been Charleston County's Register of Deeds for the past 2 years. He talks to me one-on-one about making history 2 years ago and what's next for the office in this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Michael Miller, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Good to be here, Quinn.
Yeah, I appreciate it greatly. Obviously, you are the Register of Deeds in Charleston County. And I went back last night and looked at our interview that I did with you, I believe July 1st of 2019. And you basically told me this: time gives you an interesting perspective. What is your perspective on the Register of Deeds office almost 2 years later?
Well, Quinn, I will say this, that the office has probably been neglected for quite some time. It's one of those offices that kind of runs under the radar. And it's hugely important because my office ties every landowner to their property.
Right.
And we record that information for perpetuity. And so the way we do that is vitally important. I think anytime you walk into something new, you have these ideas of what you think things ought to do, the things you ought to be doing, things you ought to change. And time has given me definitely an interesting perspective. It tells me that you measure, my daddy used to tell me, you measure twice and cut once. And so I've kind of used that mantra in trying to make the office better. We're already good, but we can be better. And so my goal is to do just that.
And what exactly do you need to change right now?
Well, to be honest with you, the office is not modernized, right? So we are what we call an all paper office, which means we collect nothing but paper. There's no electronic, there's no e-recording at all. E-recording, however, has been around for about 20 years. And all of your major counties across the country do e-recording. It helps you to streamline what you do. It gives lawyers an opportunity to send documents to you electronically and they never have to leave their office. It also allows us to cross-train everybody in the office so everybody can do all aspects and all facets of the work. My staff, very few members of my staff are cross-trained. They were never cross-trained prior to me getting there. And so one of the things that I've been trying to implement is cross-training folks in the office. So one person's able to do multiple things at different times. And that helps us. But because we are all paper office and we do a lot of documents, Quintin, last year we did 98,000 documents last year. We did 10,000 documents last month. And so we are the highest volume office in the state. I have the largest staff in the state, and we generate the most revenue of any Register of Deeds office in the state as well. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
What is the current revenue?
So last year we generated $26 million for my office. 9.9 million of that went to the county.
Right.
And so that's where we are this year, which was up from the previous year as well. Okay.
And how many more employees do you need to cross-train?
Everybody. One of the good things about e-recording allows all members of the staff to do all aspects of the work, which means currently we have 6-7 people who do this, 6-7 people who do that. Right. And when 2-3 people are out one day, 1 week, the work starts to bottleneck. And so with everybody being cross-trained, we would never see a lull in the productivity. We'd never see a lull in the work. And so because we are such a high volume office and we're paper only, when folks are not cross-trained, it's really at a deficit to the office, but really to the citizens that we serve.
And, when we sat in the historic room a couple of months ago for Quintin's Close-Ups, you told me that the historical room, it has the oldest documents in the state. What has been the most viewed document thus far?
It's hard to say because, everybody who goes into that room may be looking for something different. I was able to find out to some degree why we have some of the oldest documents in the state, because it's my understanding that during the Civil War, when General Sherman was going through the South, he was charged to burn the cities to the ground, these towns, and also burn their courthouses. Well, Quintin, guess what was stored in courthouses? Land records. Right. But when he went to Charleston, when he came to the South, he did not burn Charleston. that there are all these reasons as to why he may or may not have burned it, but he did not. And because he spared Charleston, he also gave Charleston the awesome distinction of having the oldest land records, not just in South Carolina, but arguably in a 5 or 10 state radius. And so that's why we have the oldest documents in our possession.
And how many land records have you been able to take in over the past 2 years since you've taken over office?
Well, if you want to say land records being all of the documents that we just record weekly, daily, yearly, like I said earlier, we recorded 98,000 documents this last year. The year before, my first year in office, we recorded 92,000 documents. And so, but we're talking everything from power of attorneys to satisfying your mortgage to purchasing your house to refining your house. And so they're not always all land acquisition documents, but there's something that ties people to their land.
And, you know, also, when we talked about, obviously, in that historical room, you talked to me about, obviously, money. And I want to go back to what you said, because you told me that you weren't able to put anything into the budget for the 2019 season. Were you able to do that this past summer?
I'm only laughing because I tried to. And because of COVID and other things, they cut the budget by 2.5%. And so I was requesting 3 additional FTEs, which is 3 new positions in my office, along with some revenue to do some scanning and indexing of those old documents that I showed you. And all of that, because of the budget cuts, all of those projects unfortunately, they got cut. We're still hoping that the county is able to allow my office in particular. I don't want to sound selfish because I know it's a large county and there's a lot of responsibilities throughout the county. But I'm hoping that there'll be some money that will be allocated to my office so we can do some much needed work. I will say, although I asked for 3 additional folks, I was able to get 1 additional person, 1 additional position that I have to fill now moving forward. And obviously in 2019, you met with, obviously, Joe Cunningham, Anna Johnson, all of those folks. How many more elected officials do you need to meet with in order to reach your goal? I think everybody. I think, Quintin, I think what's sad is my office is a countywide office. It ties everybody in the county who's a landowner or tied to land to my office. But we've had county council members who's never been in my building. Excuse me. They've been in the building. They've been in the O.T. Wallace building, but they've never been on the 2nd floor. I've even met with Mayor Tecklenburg. He's never been on my floor. And so how many people do I need to meet? Everybody. I think everybody needs to understand the importance of my office, not because I'm in it, but because how it ties us to land. Every development you see, Quintin, downtown, every new structure, every new artifact, they come through the registered deed office to find out who owns that property. And so the registered deeds office connects and ties all of us together. It really does. And so I'm going to reach out to Nancy Mace. I've already reached out to Lindsey Graham. I've already reached out to Tim Scott and Lindsey. I'm hoping, obviously, because the election season is over, the next time they're in town, they have an opportunity to come by my office and see exactly what we do. I will say this, when Joe Cunningham and Jim Clyburn were able to come by, we had a very good, very candid conversation about my office and what we do. And they were able to connect us with some folks in DC, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian. And before COVID came, the folks from the Smithsonian were planning a visit to my office because they were intrigued about the age of our documents and the condition of our documents. So those kinds of connections really puts Charleston on the forefront and also puts us in a place where there may be some other folk around the country who would like to help us preserve our documents.
And what are the age and obviously the condition of those documents now?
Well, Quinn, we have documents that date back to the 1600s. And I don't know if you know this or not, but, paper has taken on its own life form and transformation. Paper wasn't always what we use now. In the past, they used to write on animal skin. They used to write on cotton. They used to use iron-based ink. And so iron, over time, rusts. So if you put rust on paper or iron on paper or whatever, it will decay. So you can imagine some of our oldest documents are in serious need of repair. Currently, my office is not capable. We're not capable of preserving and archiving those documents. So resources are needed for us to find companies, which I've been able to find and locate companies who do restoration work. I do not want the documents to leave my building or leave the city to do that. And so it's been difficult to find companies who can locate or relocate in Charleston for the time they do that work, so the documents don't go far, because once they're gone, Quintin, we can't get them back. We may have a copy of them, but the original will be gone. And so the original is what's most important.
And let me go back to your original argument and the argument that you told me in the 2019 interview. And you basically told me at the time, you still need funds to preserve those documents. How much do you have thus far?
None, dude. It is an ongoing struggle to be able to articulate how important it is to preserve these documents. And again, because county council members vote on my budget and the budget of all the other elected officials, but if they don't know what's in my office, nor do they have an appreciation for what's there, I don't think they would just haphazardly or openly just give money to my office. I mean, I've even made the argument, if my office generates the kind of money we do for the county, a percentage of that would go toward restoration. And so I'm trying to come up with some ways. I've hired a grant writer to go out and to see if we can find some monies available that could help us with our preservation and our archival work. But of course, with COVID hit, it put everything at a halt and a standstill. And so we're hoping as the country starts to reopen, that those avenues and resources can be made available to us so we can start doing some real serious work.
And let me go back to the office. You told me this in the interview in 2019 as well, but you said, hey, I could use some more staff. Let me ask you this. What is the turnover rate in your office?
Very slow. I mean, we have a lot of older, seasoned citizens and staff in my office. And so now I'm starting to see some people starting to retire. They put in 35 plus years. They earned the right to retire. And so this year I've seen a little turnover, but not much at all. And again, I'm losing valuable knowledge when people retire. When I first got elected, the person who was interim in my position had been in the office for 40 years, and she retired. The person who was the chief deputy at the time, 10 days later, after I got elected, decided to leave as well. And none of this had to do anything. I didn't do anything to them personally. It was a decision that they made. And so on day 11 of my office, me serving office, 70 years of institutional knowledge walked out of the door. And it's very difficult to come into a new space and change and reform and do some really bold and creative and efficient things when 70 years of knowledge walks out of the door. I've had to recover from that. And I think we're doing a fairly good job of recovering. But like I said, I have 3 people who are looking to leave pretty soon. And so we're dealing with, and they're just, I had 2 last year and 3 this year. And so it's just part of the game, unfortunately.
And you talk about recovering. Obviously, you had COVID earlier this year. Where are you right now physically?
Oh, I'm fine, dude. It was interesting because when I got tested for COVID,
right,
when my results came back, I just finished cutting the grass. I was outside cutting the grass. And my doctor called me and she said, "Hey, Michael, you tested positive." I was like, "That can't be true." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because I was just outside cutting the grass. I went for a run the day before. I was out sprinting the day before. I never really felt all that bad." My heart goes out to people who, when they contract COVID, they get very ill and very sick. Unfortunately and thankfully, that wasn't my circumstance. I had a couple of days of aches and a low-grade fever, and a couple of days I lost my appetite. But other than that, I was fine.
All right. Any lingering effects?
None, dude. I still play soccer every Sunday. I try to be as active as I can. I'm still in my office, the registered need office, Monday through Friday, right, from 8:30 to 5. I'm still running my business, Michael and Company, during the week after hours from 5:30 to 9 at night. And I'm in my barbershop all day Saturday. So I don't feel any lingering effects of COVID whatsoever.
Let me get back to the office, because I want to ask you this. How does your office hope to keep up with growth with smart planning?
Say that again.
do you hope that your office will keep up with the growth in Charleston County with smart planning?
Well, again, with us, with the smart planning and development that's going on in Charleston, I can say it doesn't impact us, but it does to some degree.
Sure.
The research for smart growth and planning starts in my office. Obviously, they got to find out who owns the property, so on and so forth. I just have to make sure that I'm fully staffed, that my people are properly trained, and if we're able to go to ERecording, that would help us as well. But as far as the growth and everything that goes on, my office is just separate of that. We have basically no interaction with that, other than the fact that we hold those land records for entities who need information.
And when do you expect ERecording to hit your office?
Dude, I wish I could say. I wish I could tell you today, tomorrow, next month, Thanksgiving. I don't know. It is an ongoing process, and it's not just being able to do ERecording. It's also make sure that I streamline what we do now, so ERecording is more efficient for the office itself. And so it's not just being able to just take this and put something else on top of it. No. And my staff have never worked outside of our office. They've never visited another office until I took them on field trips to go visit other counties. Quintin, they never knew what other counties were doing. They had no idea. So all they know is what we do. They have no idea what else is possible. They have no idea what else can be done. And so not only am I trying to usher in something new with ERecording, I'm also having to educate my staff to let them know ERecording doesn't mean you're going to lose your job, because that's what one of their first fears. Well, Mr. Miller, am I going to have my job? Yes, because you'll still do what you were doing before. Instead of you holding the document, you'll be looking at a screen, observing the document. And so once I was able to convey that to them, I think it put them at ease. But as far as when ERecording will start, I got my fingers crossed. I don't know when. I hope by the end of my first term, I hope by end of 2022, we're able to start that process. But again, I couldn't tell you. I have to wait for county council to give me some money for that.
And when you do move over to ERecording, how much money would that save your office?
Initially, it would be an increase because we would need new technology and new machines to do ERecording. But one of my goals is, once we can do ERecording, also be able to create an opportunity for people who want to research property at home,
right, to
be able to view it online and pay for the copies online.
Sure.
So it could become a revenue generating access for the county. But initially we would take a hit because it would cost us for the technology.
And, in that interview I did with you last year, you said, hey, the office is all about stories of landowners. Let me ask you this. Which stories has made you better at your job?
Documents are recordable, right? The state allows me the opportunity to reject or accept a document that's trying to be recorded. And it's sad to say, Quintin, that there are times when people do dubious things and they do illegal things, and it ties into my office. Like somebody might be forging your name on a document, to have property transferred out of your name into their name, things like that. And so one thing I'm trying to do with ERecording is to set up a fraud alert system, right, that they have in other places in the country.
Sure.
And typically what that fraud alert system would do is, if Quintin, Washington is in my system as being a homeowner, a landowner across the county, anytime somebody comes in and does something with property that's tied to you, you would get an alert to let you know that in my office, something was done. And then you can come to my office and say, hey, Mr. Miller, I got this alert. Can you tell me what's going on?
Right.
Because I think something like that would really be so beneficial to the county and to the residents when it comes to protecting them and their property. So stories like that I hear when I go to the conferences across the country, right, really helps me understand how important this work really is and why we need to do our best job every single day.
How much do you miss the Charleston County School Board?
I miss it. I do miss it. I miss the work of kids. And I still have school-age children. I have a son who's 5 years old, who's in kindergarten. I have a daughter who is 12. She's in the 7th grade, and they both attend Charleston Development Academy. And so now I'm no longer on the Charleston County School Board. I'm now the board chair of Charleston Development Academy Public Charters. So education has always been here for me. It always has been. It always will be. It's that key that we all need. And sometimes I get calls all the time, Quintin, to be honest with you, from people from the district who wish I was back on the board because they say, Michael, we could use your leadership. And I miss the work. I like the challenge of where I am now, and I'm looking forward to continue the work I'm doing with the Registered Deeds Office. But I'd be lying if I tell you I didn't miss the school board, because I didn't.
Michael Miller, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintins Close-Ups.
Quintin, anytime, brother. But next time you're ready, come back downtown. Come back to the office. I see you walking the street all the time.
Oh, yes.
So stop on in. We'll get a chance to look at some documents. And again, Quintin, keep up the good work, brother. Keep asking, keep creating. Quintin's Close-Up keeps expanding. And Quintin, you know what?
Yes,
sometimes talk to I won't say normal people, but talk to non-elected folk. Right?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Your average Joe.
Oh, I do it all the time.
You know, and also I meant to tell you too, when I heard about what happened with you, I reached out to you because, you know, I love you, brother. And I wanted you to be okay. I wanted you to know that I was thinking about you, and it was sad that what happened to you, and let you know that you got people out here who you may know or not know personally who look out for you and care about you and what you're doing. So I want to thank you for that. Keep up the good work.
And thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Okay.